The Story King, where every tale reaches its throne. The Alpha's Vengeance. The scent of blood hit me before the sound of tiny paws scrambling through the underbrush. I was in the middle of a territory negotiation with the Ridge Valley Pack when Maya, barely 8 weeks old, her silver fur matted with mud and tears, burst through the council chamber doors. The ancient oak doors splintered on their hinges. Every wolf in the room went silent, their hackles rising at the intrusion. Maya's mother, Alara, was one of our Omega healers, a gentle soul who'd been widowed during last winter's rogue attack. The pup's enormous grey eyes found mine across the room, and what I saw in 'em made my blood run cold. "Alpha Kade," she wailed, her voice breaking. "They're hurting my mom. Please, they're hurting her." The words were barely coherent through her sobs, but I was already moving. My wolf surged forward, a primal rage igniting in my chest that I hadn't felt in years. The Ridge Valley delegates shouted protests behind me, but I didn't care. Treaty negotiations could wait. Little Maya crashed into my legs, her small body trembling so violently I thought she might shake apart. I scooped her up in one swift motion, feeling how light she was, how fragile. Her tiny claws dug into my shirt as she buried her face against my chest. "Where?" My voice came out as a growl that made several wolves in the hallway flatten their ears. The old miller's cottage. Near the eastern border," Maya hiccuped, her words tumbling out in a rush. "Mom went to gather moonflower for medicine. Those 3 wolves, the new ones who joined last month, they followed her. I was supposed to stay hidden but I heard her scream and..." She didn't need to finish. I already knew which 3 wolves she meant. Recent additions to our pack, rogues who'd pledged loyalty after being driven from their own territory. I'd accepted them against my better judgment, swayed by their sob stories of persecution. My beater, Marcus, had warned me. He'd sensed something off about them from the start. I should have listened. "Marcus," I barked, my alpha command rippling through the pack bond. Within seconds, he materialized beside me, his expression darkening as he took in the crying pup in my arms. "Gather a unit. Eastern border, old miller's cottage. Now." But even as Marcus moved to obey, I was already running. Maya clung to me like a burr, and I shifted my hold on her, tucking her securely against my chest as I burst through the pack house doors. The afternoon sun was bleeding into evening, casting long shadows through the pine forest that surrounded our territory. My wolf was screaming at me to shift, to let him take over, to run faster. But I couldn't, not with Maya in my arms. So I ran as a man, pushing my human body to supernatural speeds, leaping over fallen logs and dodging through dense thickets that tore at my clothes. "It's okay, little one," I murmured, even as fury threatened to choke me. "I've got you. You were so brave to come find me." Maya's only response was to burrow deeper against my chest, her tears soaking through my shirt. The trust she placed in me, this tiny pup who'd barely spoken to me before, was a weight I felt in my very soul. I was alpha. I was supposed to protect them all. And I'd failed. The scent hit me a quarter mile from the cottage, fear, pain, and the acrid stench of wolves drunk on their own cruelty. My vision went red at the edges. Behind me, I heard Marcus and the others crashing through the forest, but they were too far back. I couldn't wait. The old miller's cottage came into view, its weathered walls half collapsed, surrounded by wildflowers that Alara had been harvesting. The basket lay overturned in the grass, white moonflower petals, scattered like snow, and there, pressed against the cottage wall, was Alara. 3 male wolves in their shifted forms circled her. Her clothes were torn, blood streaming from a gash on her temple. She was trying to keep her back to the wall, trying to stay standing, but I could see her legs shaking. One of the wolves, I recognized him as Garrett, the leader of the 3, was laughing, a harsh, cruel sound. "Where's your pup now, Omega?" he taunted. "Did she run away? Smart little thing. Maybe we'll track her down after." Enough. The word tore from my throat as an alpha command, powered by every ounce of authority I possessed. All three wolves froze mid-step, their bodies locked in place by the weight of my dominance. Their eyes went wide with sudden terror as they finally scented my approach. Good, they should be terrified. I set Maya down gently behind a thick oak tree. Stay here, sweetheart, don't look, cover your ears. Her eyes were huge, but she nodded, pressing her small hands over her ears and squeezing her eyes shut. Smart pup. I turned back to the three wolves, and let my true alpha nature show. The air around me shimmered with power as I shifted partially, allowing my wolf to surface. My eyes bled to gold, claws extending, canines lengthening. The three rogues whimpered, finally understanding the magnitude of their mistake. Alara's legs gave out, and she slid down the wall, but her eyes found mine, and there was such relief in them, such trust, that something in my chest cracked open. Alara, I said softly, keeping my voice gentle for her even as murder sang in my veins. Are you badly hurt? I'll heal, Alpha. Her voice was shaky but steady. Brave, like her daughter. Please, don't. Maya saw too much already. She was worried about her pup even now, bleeding and terrified. The protectiveness that surged through me was almost overwhelming. Marcus will take you both to Dr. Winters, I said. This won't take long. Right on cue, Marcus burst into the clearing with 5 other enforcers. His eyes swept the scene, and his lip curled with disgust as he took in what had nearly happened. Get Alara and Maya to safety, I ordered. Now. Marcus moved immediately to Alara's side, helping her to her feet with surprising gentleness for such a large man. Maya peeked out from behind the tree, and Alara sobbed, reaching for her daughter. They clung to each other, and I had to look away from the raw emotion on Alara's face. The rest of you, witness, I said to my enforcers. Pack law is clear on assault of any pack member, but especially those under protection. These 3 broke sacred trust. Garrett finally found his voice, though his wolf form was still trembling under my alpha pressure. We didn't know, we thought she was fair game, just an omega. Silence. The command hit like a physical blow, and all 3 wolves collapsed to the ground, bellies exposed in submission. But it was too late for submission. Far, far too late. There is no fair game in my pack, I snarled, circling them slowly. Every wolf, from Alpha to Omega, is under my protection. You pledged loyalty, and this is how you honor that pledge. By terrorizing a healer, by traumatizing a pup. I stopped in front of Garrett, letting him see the barely controlled violence in my eyes. You're right about one thing, she is an Omega, and do you know what that means in my pack? I leaned down, my voice dropping to a deadly whisper. It means she's more precious than gold. Omegas are our healers, our peacekeepers, our heart. They are to be cherished and protected above all others. Garrett's eyes widened as understanding dawned. In many packs, Omegas were treated as lesser. But not in mine. Never in mine. I challenge you, I said formally, my words carrying the weight of ancient law. For assault on a pack member and breaking pack trust. The penalty is exile or death. Choose. I choose exile. Garrett gasped immediately. His 2 companions echoed him frantically. I smiled, and it was not a kind expression. Denied. You see, exile means you walk away. You go on living, breathing, potentially hurting others in some other pack. And I find I can't allow that. What happened next was swift and brutal. My wolf took over completely, and I gave him free rein. We were alpha for a reason, not just to lead, but to protect. And when protection failed, to enact justice. When it was over, 3 bodies lay still in the Moonflower Meadow. My enforcers stood witness, their faces grim but approving. This was the old law, the necessary law. Some crimes could not be forgiven. I shifted back to human form, breathing hard, covered in blood that wasn't mine. The rage was finally draining away, leaving behind something colder and more painful. Guilt. I should have seen this coming. Should have vetted them better. Should have protected her. Burn the bodies, I told my enforcers quietly. And spread the word. This is what happens to those who abuse the vulnerable in my pack. I found Alara and Maya in Dr. Winter's clinic an hour later, after I'd cleaned up and changed. Maya was curled in her mother's lap on the examination table, both of them freshly bandaged. Dr. Winters nodded at me and quietly excused herself. The moment we were alone, Alara stood, setting Maya carefully on the table. Then, to my shock, she approached me and dropped into a formal bow. Alpha Kade, thank you. If you hadn't, don't. The word came out harsher than I intended, and I softened my tone. Don't thank me for what should have been prevented in the first place. I failed you, Alara. I let those monsters into our pack. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face, and did something that shocked me even more. She reached out and took my hand. You saved us, she whispered. Maya came to you for help, and you came. That's what matters. Her hand was so small in mine, her fingers trembling. And suddenly I was aware of her in a way I'd never been before. The delicate curve of her jaw, the warmth of her brown eyes, the quiet strength that had her standing here comforting me when she was the one who'd been hurt. A small voice interrupted my thoughts. Alpha Kade. I looked down to find Maya had climbed off the table and was tugging on my pants leg. When I crouched down to her level, she threw her tiny arms around my neck. Thank you for saving my mama, she whispered in my ear. You're the bestest alpha ever. Something inside my chest, something that had been frozen for years since I lost my own family in a raid, cracked open completely. I wrapped my arms carefully around the little pup, mindful of her injuries. You saved her too, little wolf, I murmured back. You were so brave. Your father would be so proud of you. When I stood, Alara was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Soft wonder, maybe, or perhaps just exhaustion and relief. I'm assigning personal guards to you both, I said, slipping back into alpha mode because it was safer than examining the strange feelings swirling in my chest. 24/7 protection until. That's not necessary, Alara began. It's not a request. My voice was firm but gentle. You're under my personal protection now. Both of you. And I take care of what's mine. The word, mine, hung in the air between us, heavier than I'd intended. Alara's breath caught, and pink bloomed in her cheeks despite the bruises. Yes, Alpha, she whispered. As I left the clinic that night, Maya's tiny hand waving goodbye, I realized something profound had shifted. That little pup's desperate plea for help had cracked open something I'd kept locked away, the capacity to care deeply, to feel protectively, to maybe, possibly, love again. And looking back at Alara, seeing her smile despite everything, I thought maybe, just maybe, she felt it too. Some said an alpha's greatest strength was his dominance. But standing there in the clinic doorway, watching a brave Omega and her courageous pup, I realized the truth. An alpha's greatest strength was knowing what was worth protecting. And I'd just found mine. Thank you for reading. For more tales of courage, love, and the extraordinary, subscribe to the Story King, where legends come alive.